Okay, here we go. Business Not As Usual podcast coming at you with your hosts, Vince and Mike.
Hey Vince,
Michael,
what's going on?
hey, I am I'm having a great day.
Fantastic.
It's the weather outside is frightful.
It's
But
less frightful than yesterday, but yes.
it's less frightful than yesterday. But I'm having a great day because and let's pull back the curtain a little bit here. Normally when we record these episodes, we're both very much practitioners. We know our stuff. And so the way that it normally goes, and we've talked about this in the past, the way that it normally goes is a couple minutes before we go live, it's like, hey, what do you want to talk about? Oh, let's talk about this. Okay, great. Let's go. Today is a little different because we actually decided several hours ago what our topic was going to be. And as a result, I've done some research and I've made notes. So
notes even.
I am beyond prepared for this episode. And we are going to be talking about customer engagement today and how to engage your customers. So, and that's very much in your wheelhouse. And it's less so in mine, but still, it's always been something that I've been aware of and aware of the necessity for.
And maybe just to even narrow it, not so we may touch on it because we go all over the place. There's not so much on, hey, how do you market to them?
Yeah,
it's in the development of a process, the development of a service design, maybe a digital product. So it's around the work that we all do. It's not so much, yes, you give them a coupon and they're all good to go. It's less on the marketing side and more on the development side. So it's if we go down that route, and I think, Vince, on the process side, I think I'm probably going to offend. We may not see that as something that you start with the customer. It's kind of like we already have this information. We're going to thin out the process. We're going to make it more efficient from a business perspective and what's better for us as a company, but not necessarily what is good for the customer. And so we're probably going to touch on that, but I do want to highlight that, point that out, that we will be going down that road.
Yeah. Yeah, and the reality is, a lot. There has been a lot more emphasis on engaging customers, which I think is It's a lot. It's sort of symbiotic too, but it's different than customer engagement, at least based on the research that I did.
Just moving the words around.
But they have very different meanings.
Yep.
But there has been more of an emphasis on building or designing processes, services with the customer in mind. Where I saw that as a gap, and this is probably going back 5 or 6 years at this point. So it's just become part of the way that I do it. But it is central to the work that I've done in Lean Six Sigma process improvement, where everything starts with your customer. And it's really about identifying pain points for your customer based on what they're telling. Like they're going to tell you what they have a problem with, and those are the things you need to try to fix.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, classically, when you get into from a business analysis, business process perspective, it hadn't been. It was always about efficiencies and automation and making things streamlined, but never, again, historically, not looking at, okay, what would our customers say about us streamlining? Because we may be actually making the experience for them worse by making it easier for us.
Correct. And what's funny is if you look at any sports team or any type of sport, the first thing they do, like the NFL, Monday is game right after Sunday. Monday is film day. And what they're doing is they're looking at the next team. They don't just go, yeah, next week we're just going to start throwing. or these are the plays
Yeah.
we're going to run. They actually go and do some reconnaissance and they go look at it, and everyone does that. So if we kind of take that, and I know everyone does surveys. I get it. I don't know if those are the best to get really deep insight. And so
Mm-mm.
for me, the deep insight comes, and you can call it, in the old days of user experience, we called them contextual interviews. If you broaden it, they become ethnography. But really, forget what they're called. Go and sit with your customer, internal, external, and see how they live their life, how they deal with other companies outside of yours, and then what they have to go through to do business with you.
Yeah.
And you get a ton of information. And this doesn't have to be like 800 people. You can go and talk to 5-6 people, and you will get, and you spend some time with them, like maybe an hour to 2 to 3 hours, and you will get deep insight into what needs to change in your company, or what are their pain points, and what you can change. It doesn't have to be a whole journey. It can even be little things. But
Right.
Without talking, that first engagement of talking to your customers, but getting in front of them, to me, that's the first step, the first important step on the journey to giving them the solving their problems, giving them the needs that they're looking for.
Right. And I think that's where, and I think we maybe have jumped ahead a little bit, but when I think about what customer engagement is, and I said it was different than engaging your customer, from a definition standpoint. Again, remember, I came prepared today. From a definition standpoint, I would define customer engagement as the measure of interactions between your organization and your customer from the customer's perspective.
Right. And
right.
So you would get those from speaking with them, interacting with them.
Correct. And so I agree with you. It's not surveys. Like, how many times have you filled in a survey, NA, or just the middle, like just to get through it? It's not a great representation of engagement. Neither is, and you've alluded to this, a coupon or, like some sort of incentive for them to engage with you. It's, and I've got some stories that I'm happy to share, but I just sort of wanted to define, at least for me, what customer engagement meant, because it's really about how connected a customer is to you and your organization and your brand. How closely do they align, or do they connect to what it is that you do? And whether you are, a manufacturer of shoes, or an airline, or a government agency, or any sort of retailer, it doesn't matter. How well does that customer, or do customers connect and see themselves as ambassadors of your brand?
Because that's what you get when you speak with them.
Oh yeah,
they start to become ambassadors for the changes that you're making, because it's not they then enforce these changes, right? They reinforce them, that these aren't things that you've just decided to do to your customer. Your customer has come together with you to start to change your offerings, how you interact with them, how you treat them. And that all comes from this deep research. And, we can go into the mechanics of, you do personas and customer journey maps, but that's the output of all these conversations that you have with your customer.
And I think what's really important there is if you have customers that are willing to invest that time with you, that is a very good thing.
Yes.
Right? Like it's you have to get past the vanity metrics of surveys that, are you satisfied? Yes or no? Like, everyone likes those vanity pieces that say, hey, 90% of our customers are happy with our service. But you actually should then be looking at, okay, what are we doing wrong with the remaining 10%?
Mm-hmm.
It's not about, yay, 90% break out the cake and coffee. You should be leveraging that data to continually improve
Mm-hmm.
how you do things, right? And that does start with engaging your customer. So if you have people that are willing to tell you all of the ways that you suck, that is a good thing, because they wouldn't do it if they didn't care.
That's right. And so that
Right.
you already have them engaged in the work that you need, right? You already have these people that want to help you improve your business. And without that, you're kind of, how are you supposed to know if no one's telling you, no one cares enough
Right.
to tell you what their needs are, or how you aren't meeting them? Because even if they're being negative, they are helping you change the direction of a product or a service or your business model. And without it, you're not gonna actually meet your customer needs.
Right.
So I think that's the first.
Because if they
step.
didn't care, yeah. Because if they don't care, it's fine.
They're lost.
How's our product? It's fine.
Don't care.
Yeah, whatever.
Right.
Like, and at that point, you're a commodity.
Mm-hmm.
Because if someone comes along that does what you do cheaper, or with some other incentive, you now are down customers. And I think, and we touched on it earlier, but this is very much contextual to the nature of the industry and the type of organization that you're in, because customer engagement means different things in different organizations. So, some organizations and industries are concerned with cost per acquisition or cost per click, or, that's how they measure engagement. For others, it's things like customer retention, customer satisfaction, customer lifetime value. So, customer effort. Make it contextual to you. So just for those that are listening, keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
We're not here to say, here are the 3 things that you need to measure in order to quantify your customer engagement. We can't, because it depends on what industry that you're in and where you are. Someone that is an online business and is concerned with clicks is going to have very different metrics than, say, a public agency that it doesn't really face a lot of competition and is not competing for market share.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Now I want to come to the thing that drives most people crazy.
Okay, this should be fun.
Yeah, and you know what I'm gonna say, because we've talked about it before. So you get all the you have your observations, you make your insights, you want to tackle now a customer problem, right? You've done your personas, you got your journey maps, you have the current ones, and you're like, okay, maybe you have future ones, and you go, here's the problem we need to solve. And and we're going to have the customer co-create said product, service, or process. And everybody loses their mind. And everyone brings up the stupid Simpson episode of when they let Homer do it.
The Homer. When he built the Homer. Yeah.
And everyone brings it up. And I just want to having stop people. You don't just let people come in and then start drawing whatever they want. And you go, perfect. And you snatch that piece of paper and you have your developer build it. It is within the framework, and better than I, Vince, because you facilitate, of a workshop of where you generate ideas, not like, oh, what do I want? It's within specific exercise, be design thinking or the process work that you do. It's not just whatever they want. It's within a controlled environment where they let their imagination run within guideposts or guardrails. Not, oh, they did this drawing and then that's what you're going to go build. So co-creation is great, not only from you let the IT team and the business team, they all co-create, but when you bring the customer, it's just another level of engagement. Again, engaging the customer on the product that they're going to see, and then they'll also be your advocates because they help build it.
Right. And not to deviate too much from the topic of customer engagement, but that is where, when you are in these workshop environments, that is where having a skilled facilitator that can get into the heart of the need and gets beyond the stated want. Like, so let's continue with that Homer example. So I'm Homer Doe, and I want a car that plays La Cucaracha as my horn, let's get beyond what I say, because that's what I want.
Right.
But what is my actual need? I want a way of alerting other vehicles to the presence of my behemoth of a vehicle. And I don't want the standard, I want something else. So then you can get into, okay, well, how can we solve this problem?
Right.
So that we're still giving, we're still addressing what the customer wants, but in a way that isn't completely ridiculous. And you could go through a list for that car. I mean, the car was legendary. Like that, I remember that episode, and I was younger than 16 at the time, so I wasn't driving. And so it was like, I want the Homer, because we were stupid and we didn't know anything.
Right.
But again, like, I want a separate pod for the kids. What is it that you actually need?
Mm-hmm. What is the intent of what they're saying?
What is the intent? Exactly.
Yes.
What is the intent behind that? And that is where a skilled facilitator can draw those out.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this conversation with someone earlier. When you get into workshops, you have to elicit the needs. Yes. You have to elicit the requirements, and elicit means to draw out. And a lot of people, they get into, we're going to gather requirements like it's a crop. Like we're going to go out into the field and pick pick requirements off bushes. Like it doesn't work that way. And so it takes a skill to draw out. And I think that's where, getting back to customer engagement, because I agree, if you are able to draw out their needs, you're going to give them a product that they are much more likely to buy, and their demographic equals. But also they do become ambassadors because they do see themselves in that product, and they're willing to then share that with their community, which helps to grow your brand and how people see themselves connected to it.
Mm-hmm. And you said something which also goes to the facilitator. How might we? So again, how might we build something that makes noise, is a little bit fancy? So you don't take the exact thing, you're taking the intent. And then how might you build that in a way that hits a broad spectrum of customers, but also meets customer need? Business need. Mm-hmm. It's also very important.
Very. And so we get into these co-creation exercises. We're helping to build customer engagement. We need to do that because you can't just do it with one or two. Like, you need to have a continual process. And in the end, you need to include the things that your customers are saying to you. Mm-hmm. Because again, if they're invested enough to tell you all the ways that you're screwing up, it means that they want you to succeed. They want to be a part of you and your success, and they want to be aligned to that. So take advantage of it. But then, like, the worst thing that companies do, Mike, and you probably have seen this way more than I have, is they ask their customers for feedback, but then do nothing about it. Mm-hmm. And that's the fastest way to kill engagement, because it's like, and I've seen responses where it's like, you've asked me the same question for the last 3 years, and I've always given you the same response. I'm done. I'm good. I was going
to say that if you continually get feedback and then do nothing, you'll actually see it in the verbatims of, I don't know why you keep asking. You actually don't do it.
Yeah.
So
do something, like fix something,
or stop asking.
Or stop
it's very
asking.
simple.
Yeah.
Either stop asking, or if you're going to ask, you have to do something.
Yeah, for sure. What are some of the ways? Let's turn this. Let's look at this from a little bit of a different perspective. What are some of the ways that you feel engaged by brands, products, services that you use, Mike?
How do I feel engaged? I
Yeah.
actually, for the most part, don't, because a lot of brands don't do it.
Okay.
But one way is if you have, and some brands do it, and I'm part of it. They have like a customer engagement team or a customer consultation team where you get to sign up. Like you sign up for free or whatever, and they actually do things like run these things by you. Right, every once in a while you'll get, hey, what would you think if we did this, or they'll send you an email. My insurance company does this a lot. If I want to go in for usability testing, so they've built a product somehow, and now they're asking, and they'll give you some money. They'll give you like a fee of maybe like $100, but you have to go somewhere, and they'll let you. They're going to observe you using the new product that they just built, and the product could be offline, online, but then they put you there. They have you do tasks, and then you do the usability test, and then you get like $100, and in that way, I'm like, when it comes out, then I start going, you should try that feature because you're the one who helped. You have some stake in it. There's some ownership of it. So that's those little happy face surveys, the surveys I get like after, and I brought this up before, like after I get my car done, and they're like, please give me a 10 because that's how I get my bonus. All those things are not engaging to me.
No. I got a funny story about what you just shared about, going in for usability testing. So many years ago, I was called in to be on a focus group for a radio station, local Toronto radio station, The Edge. And I went in, and it was like, we're not going to pay you, but we're going to pay you, but we're going to have pizza. And I'm like, yeah, I'm in. And then I ended up getting like a bunch of swag and stuff, but that, like, whatever. But I distinctly remember there was a DJ at the time that I just did not find funny, and I said that at the focus group, and he was gone a week later. So I'm not taking the credit for that.
Well, you guys actually did a focus group about the on-air talent.
Well, it was just like, what do you think of the station, and what do you think of the direction and the type of music that we're playing?
Right.
And, there was a lot of representation from a lot of different backgrounds and ages, and people were like, they were like one guy I remember was really upset that they were playing music from the early 90s on the Sunday night when it was supposed to be the retro show. But I'm like, but dude, at this point, that's 10 years old.
Right.
That is retro at this point. Like, but he was like, what happened to the Cure from the 80s? And I'm like, but that's too old. Like, this is now
the Bunny Men. Where are they?
Yeah, but this is so, anyways, that I don't do a lot of those now, just because I don't have the time. For me, one of the ways that organizations can engage me is I am a sucker for points. And so when you gamify, hey, if you buy, like, when Starbucks launched their loyalty program in Canada, for me it was a no-brainer because I was going there anyway. But think like it has points have been the differentiator between where I buy my tech stuff. Do I go to Best Buy or do I go to well, I'm going to get points at Best Buy. And now they've gotten rid of that, and now I'm a free agent. I feel liberated because now I can buy my tech wherever. Versus, when I fly Air Canada because I get points and that I can become a frequent flyer and so I have been incentivized. Now, that being said, no amount of points is enough to overcompensate, or to compensate rather, for
bad
a
service.
crappy experience.
Of course.
Right? So if you're giving me points, but my flight is bad, my seat sucks, and it's just a bad experience, then you're gonna lose. You're gonna lose me. So you've got to sort of keep those things in balance. But that's, to me, that's one way that organizations and businesses can gamify the experience to keep their customers coming back, because the cost of acquiring a new customer far exceeds retaining an existing customer. And so to like a 5-to-1 ratio, like it costs 5 times as much to retain or to get a new customer. And so, that's one of the things that organizations can do. That being said, that may not be an option for you, because I don't know, if you're like, the Bank of Canada, or, like, I don't know how you would gamify that experience for your customers. Although, hey, I'm also not the authority on this, on said Bank of Canada.
I mean, another way of engaging through the design process is actually giving people early access to features. And so it's the beta version. So you tell them that it's not, it may not work, it may go down, but people always having early access to something always gives them, like, there's that engagement, like, oh, I have something that other customers don't, and then I get to comment on it. So early access to new stuff, or a new feature is about to go live, so you can test it live without before the broader audience gets it, is another good way. And I think on kind of that vein, if you're lucky enough to have something called a model office, that is another way to engage your customers. It's kind of like the co-creation thing, where you're at a point of, you're going to release this service, and you actually simulate what that new product or service, how it's going to behave. And then you watch customers go through that entire service or that product, and how your employees also, how the process, how the customer service, how they all help when the launch comes, how they all help with that product. So that's in advance of it actually going live. You do a few simulations to see if it's actually working fully the way you thought it would, all the way from like the customer to your frontline staff to your support staff. That's another way for you to continuously engage your customers through the process, which also goes to the early access, because you can also do it through early access.
Yeah, I've never seen a company use a model office for customers. Usually that's like usability.
Yeah.
But yeah, you definitely would want to leverage a model office to ensure that your staff are ready to support, right? And then you layer it on, because I've seen companies make mistake of running a single process through a model office, right? And that you need to do that first, but then you need to run that through the gamut of all of the processes.
That's what I'm saying.
To see how it fits in, because otherwise it's like, yeah, it works on its own, but when you then regression test, when you regression test the process with all the other processes, you have to make sure that it works that way too.
And just little things like, when this happens, then I'm going to speak to my call. Well, then, that person's going to talk to that person.
Right.
How are they going to talk? Is it by virtual? Is it by a phone? Are they going to just text them? If those things aren't worked out, like what usually happens is you work that out in your first few weeks. Everybody goes, it sucked. Oh yeah, it sucked because we launched it, but now we've smoothed. Wouldn't it be great if you work that out before going live, and you do that in a model office, and you do that with the help of your customers, or you do it with early access?
Yeah, and you're right. Like it does help to smooth that out, so that you don't have to go live with all of
All the
the
warts,
bumps and the
as
ugliness,
they
all the
say.
warts, right? Yes. You're still going to have some, but
But
it'll
if you
be
can
smoother.
if you can reduce them, then it won't.
Yes.
Maybe it won't impact the impact won't be as much.
Right. And having that simulation is really, really helpful in seeing that, like you said, I have to call my supervisor. Great. How? Is it through chat? Is it through on the phone? Am I getting up? Because now I'm taking, like, it should be as close to real world as possible. And this is something that, in the BA community and the project community, like, this is live testing your process. That's really what this is. It's testing it based on the use case of what you need to accomplish, and can you do it, or are there complications that you hadn't thought of, like, I need to reach over my phone. I don't have a phone at my desk. I need to get a phone. Like, it's closing those gaps so that chaos doesn't ensue when you do launch.
That's right.
So
we launched, and then chaos ensues, which is what usually happens.
Yes, and
which
it's
is never
a good time.
And it's never a good way to engage your customer when chaos ensues on a brand new product or service that they were hoping to get.
So I think, customer engagement is a really important piece. You might call it one of the missing pieces.
Might call it that,
of the transformation puzzle. And I think a lot of it can be overcome through a lot of the things that Mike's already described around ethnography, around customer research. And it doesn't have to take a lot of effort. There's no excuse to not engage your customers and figure out how you can make their lives better. At the end of the day, that's what they want. They want to be able to accomplish some task that they need you for, and then you need to make it easy for them to do that. So understanding how they fit.
A lot of effort. They don't want to expend a lot of effort to do the thing that you need them to do. So
nobody does. We're all lazy.
No. Yes.
Like, nobody wants to stand. Nobody wants to stand in line for an hour to go grocery shopping. Why would you do that? Instead, you order everything online and then pick it up. Like,
exactly.
How easy do you make it to do business? Like, and now that I've said that, like, we're still in a global pandemic. I am making decisions on where to go grocery shopping based on the amount of effort that I need to expend.
That's right.
Right? So if I have to stand in line for an hour before I go in, I'm not doing it.
Of course.
Right? And so how are you making it easy for your customers to engage with you? And that is going to drive their engagement, their connection to you and your brand.
Yeah. And so this is your time. Let us know how you, through your development process, it could be of a process itself, it could be a digital product, it could be an offline product, it could be
a physical product,
it could be it could be a brand new journey. How are you, on top of all the stuff we've talked about, engaging your customer to help you produce that new thing that you're making, or making something better? Let us know.
Hit us up at the for those that have listened to this show, and we're now up to episode 36, that you can get us at michaelmartino.ca and vincentmirabelli.com. You know that already. For the people that are new, you're going to have to figure out through our words where you can get us at michaelmartino.ca and vincentmirabelli.com. But this was a very interesting episode. I felt a lot. This was a nice blend of flow and just, we know our stuff, and preparation. Yes. So I may have to do this more often. This was a lot of fun.
This could be our new business model for next year.
I could start preparing for these shows. And we're always prepared. Again, we are practitioners. So it's not like we're just half-assing it, and we just know our stuff. But isn't it dangerous when someone comes in prepared and they know their stuff? But let's leave it there. For Mike and myself, this has been the Business Not As Usual podcast. We will catch you in the next one.
See ya.